What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Deep End Podcast. As always, I am so thankful to have you join us. More importantly than most days, because today we have a very special guest. So, service sacrifice is something I wanted to create originally because I felt that there was a huge gap in how we branch the civilian world and the military lifestyle. A lot of times we come back bent as veterans. We have some things that are unresolved. That does not mean we are broken. And I feel that with sharing our experiences, we're able to help other veterans share theirs and also bridge that gap between the families of our service members. It's something that I'm so passionate about. Something I'm very, very humbled that people are okay with opening up about the lost loved ones, loss of friends. Losing a brother or sister overseas. Veteran suicide is a huge issue that we face. And I think that with these conversations, we can maybe encourage somebody else to go out of their way and maybe seek help or talk to a friend or throw rocks at the wall until they feel better. Do something that doesn't lead to dealing with, veteran issues with alcoholism or diving into drugs or giving into those suicidal ideations that some people feel. And I would love if you took something away from this episode. So thank you so much for tapping in, and let's get straight into service and sacrifice. Here we spotlighting some veteran stories.
Are you thinking about making a podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one, and if I can figure it out, you definitely can too. You can create your own content all in one place for free with zero hangups and even earn money as soon as you get started. Spotify lets you record and edit episodes from your phone or computer so you can go mobile, just like I enjoy to do. My favorite thing about it is that you can create video episodes if you wish and upload them to wherever podcasts are heard. You can even set up subscriptions, or if you're like me, listener support options for listeners to help you grow. I 10 out of 10 recommend the Spotify for Podcasters app. Or, why don't you just step over to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your own podcast.
All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Off the Deep End Podcast. Today, I'm joined by someone who's absolutely phenomenal. I've heard about his story from a lot of people, but I wanted to get it straight from the source. Here at Off the Deep End, it's really important to spotlight veteran stories, not just for the civilians to understand what our veterans experience in the military and kind of bridge that gap, but also for the families. A lot of times, families don't understand what someone goes through until they're feeling comfortable to share it. And so I'm thankful for you taking your time to do this, brother. Welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just say hi to the world and your audience, Eddie. And I'll try to be as authentic as possible in this experience, this moment, and as present as much as possible with you. This is it's pretty much like a fishbowl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're the two guys in the middle, and then there's the invisible fishbowl effect of those that are in the outer circle, and I think the impact and the authenticity of our conversation will be witnessed by the outer circle of our fishbowl for sure. So
I love the way you put that. I really admire that for a multitude of reasons. One, how beautiful would life be if we were just ourselves? We let go of the things that make us strap us down in certain boxes, who society says we need to be, and just look at us as individuals and our experiences, and we share them. Syncing up has been done way before Americans even stepped foot on American soil. Now, it was passed down from generation to generation with the Native Americans. Different tribes would share war stories to connect the youth with their forefathers, and I think that is where that's where I learned to appreciate history. It's his story, right? Someone sharing their story, and so I'm excited to hear yours. We have to start. I think, what was it like for you growing up? Where did it all start for you?
Well, it's man, I think first memory, you want to call that. I mean, the first memory of of all this stuff has been way back in South Vietnam. So I was born and raised in South Vietnam until 1983. But first memory that I could still remember some today has been growing up in a big family, but well loved by my grandparents on my dad's side. I was spoiled. I was a spoiled brat. Whatever I want gets. It's hilarious, but it's like every weekend. We live apart from my grandparents a little bit in the city in Saigon, but every weekend, my grandparents made sure that I would be coming over and stay over the weekend with them. And so like, man, whatever Lynn's won, Lynn's got, and I have a bunch of cousins that were living over with my grandparents' side, but my grandparents would always give me money to spend at the weekend, and I get to dish out, the favors with other cousins, and stuff like that. I mean, everybody went through Lynn for weekend spending, and it was weird. It was a weird thing because it's like I don't think anybody else. I mean, I don't know if any of the kids had similar experience. But I was a favorite for a reason. I was a favorite because I didn't realize until later that my grandma had a bunch of kids, a bunch of sons, and they all died except my dad.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
There was civil war in South Vietnam with North Vietnam, and all men are conscripted in one way or the other into the civil war. And um, you know, it's turned out eventually, until even after the war was over. Basically, my dad was the only surviving son of hers, of her total 9 or 10 children. There were 5 or 6 sons, and my dad was the only surviving son. And I'm being, his son, his firstborn son, in Asian culture. It's had a certain significance to it, and so like and I never knew like kind of why until like later on, until I knew more about the story. But yeah, so that's turned out that was the reason why I was such a favorite kid.
Mm.
um I was not smart or any special or anything like that. I was pretty dumb actually, growing up. But that um man, I could tell you why I say that about myself, but I was a pretty privileged and dumb kid growing up. But I learned a lot from my grandparents. I learned a lot from my mom. I think eventually as I grew up, I think I learned a lot of cool stuff and how to move around and be sort of like who I am, attributing a lot to the matriarchs in my family for sure.
Mm. I know a foundation is very important for a child. As they grow, we want our children to be loved, nurtured, to feel loved, to feel heard, to feel like they have a voice, even though they should use that voice in a respectful nature. To There's so many different things we try to instill in our children. What are some of the standout
Yeah.
lessons that your grandparents instilled in you?
Um, be humble. Uh, um, give first before receiving, expecting give without expectation of anything of return.
Mm.
So not just my grandparent, but also my mom. You could Another one would be around compassion and around giving, is that you have, if you operate in the world with an abundance mindset, you always have something to offer the world and to offer others.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I wish I was able to meet them and learn some of
Yeah.
these things, because I think that when we have grandparents in our life. They have so many great things. I remember my grandpa used to sit and we'd watch movies, A Bridge Too Far, Black Hawk Down, and he is the number one person who explained to me the importance of people who would go above and beyond for their country and serve in the military. He helped me understand why my stepdad deployed after 9/11, how I need to kind of step up and be the man of the house, quote unquote, right? Um, he really instilled a lot of values in me, whether it comes to serving others as well, Boy Scouts, volunteering, anything I could do to help other people, had sticking up against bullies, all these things that were taught to me. He really shoved down my throat at a young age. Like, listen, you have to eat this food whether you like it or not. So you might as well pretend you like it. So um, I think one of my most fond memories of my grandparents were watching movies. Black Hawk Down. We talk about why I was getting so emotional at the end of it. And he'd ask me why I'm so sad, why I'm upset, because I wanted to be like them when I grew up. I wanted to be not die in war, not risk my life in war, but to be somebody who's willing to. And so I was able to kind of follow that path. What pathways after leaving in 1983 did you take?
Yeah, no, I, well, the reason why we left Vietnam in 1983 was because we were granted political asylum to the United States because my dad was fighting on the losing side of the war.
Mm,
Um, and one of the most formative, couple of very formative men, as you said, and you shared about how you know men of previous generation have shaped us in certain way, and then they don't necessarily be your dad, right? Your
mm,
actual dad, but it's like some other men of previous generation that give you or instill in you certain um personalities that I can look up to. For me, it was one of my uncles who passed away during the war.
mm,
And then in my neighborhood, there was another that I call uncle who was very formative, helping me in my very formative years until I was 13 years old before we left Vietnam. He was my martial art teacher. But both of these men were former paratroopers. And so, when I arrived in the United States, even though our family just restarted from everything, and I had to learn English all over again, and trying to make it and all that stuff, and enrolling schools and high school and all that stuff. At 13, I was pretty much have a fixation on that I wanted to become like them.
mm,
So that was my life goal. I mean, some kids, wanted to have want to have a car. Some kids want to have their own business. Some kids want to be, for numbers of things. A lot of kids don't know what they wanted, didn't know what they want. I was very fixated, and I was just like, if it was the last thing I would do in this world, my life goal would be a paratrooper. That was it.
wow.
Then I died a happy person, you know.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So that was sort of like my prize in life. Um, in my very, very narrow schemes of things. I saw a lot of sacrifices. I saw a lot of, but I saw beauty in the way, the resilience that they show up. When my uncle came home from deployment, and he didn't have any kids, and so I was like his son. He was so nice. He was so like, taking me everywhere. We had like secret outing and bought me whatever I wanted. Experienced a very gentle side of a warrior. Um, in my neighbor uncle, he exhibited a lot of warmth, exhibited a lot of discipline, expectation, set high expectation for me. Saw potential and communicate that potential from me, to me, and then make sure he set time aside, for me as well. And he had two daughters, and he didn't have any sons. So I was like literally just like his son. We trained pretty hard, man, pretty hardcore, man. It was just like we're just neighbor, we're just 2 houses away, and it was just like 2 hours early in the morning, 2 hours at night, every day, nonstop for like 4 years straight. But he set the conditions in which I was knowing how to train myself, give myself sort of like proper discipline. And so when I was in the United States, attending schools, I went to a recruiter. And I remember went to a recruiter and said, it was just like, if I want to be a paratrooper, what do I need to prepare for? So they lay out the whole schematics and everything. It's like, well, the biggest thing is just make sure you don't fail high school and get PT, do PT. I'm like, well, all right. Well, what are the standards? And the Army back then for me was, the APFT was just 2 miles run, 2 minute push-up, 2 minute sit-ups, and the 2 miles run. That's the basics of it. And then we'll go from there. But so I knew I was pretty much had to train, physically and able to volunteer for it. And that was it. Those are the two important figures in my life, male figures in my life, to sort of like set me on my trajectory.
Wow. That is absolutely breathtaking. I think one of the most standout things that really sticks out to me is the things that I try to provide for my wife's brother. Dad not present, wants to be in SWAT when he grows up. I don't know much about SWAT, but I do know where to find resources. I can bring him around police officers. I can bring him around sheriff's deputies. I can bring him around people who operate with firearms in a safe, responsible environment, and talk about the four do nots, the four, treat, never, keep, and also the every other asset that involves gun safety to help him understand the importance of not taking life. Creating the mindset at a young age of, it's not knowing when to shoot it, it's when not to shoot. That's very, very important and vital in being a productive member of society. I try to get him around people who understand these. We try to do the workouts. I got a gym downstairs at my house, and every time he's here, he wants to be really serious about this. And I'm looking to ways to implement more structure. And I think I'm going to take a leaf out of your uncle's book and go after it with the morning and night, so that you're waking up and going to bed after thinking about your dreams and aspiring to be great every single day. I really admire that they took the time to do that with you.
Yeah, and they have, and through that experience, it's adding on to the notions of giving, because certainly they have given much of themselves without knowing what the future might hold, right? And that was like also set me in a mindset to which you never know what kind of impact you might have in someone else's life. That whenever you can, share what you know, share with all of your heart, share with all of your just give freely and give all, because you never know what kind of impact you're made and you're going to make in someone else's life, for sure. And so that is also another aspect around giving, selfless sacrifice and selfless service, selfless service and that kind of stuff. And that helped me transcend a lot of the schism that society often want us to divide ourselves, whether it's through organized religions or gender or whatever the case may be, political affiliations, whatever, right? But to me, those are the things that are barriers, and the only way to break to those barriers is just around, being genuine with each other, and the only way to break down those walls is just giving freely and giving what you've got, to the others and for the others. And as it turned out, every known major religion is probably teaching the same thing, as it turned out. I mean, it's like, so it's but it's been there in all cultures and everything is a way, it's a human center, the word in the street nowadays, they call it the human centered design. But the notions that it's that we are each other brothers keepers, all these notions that we have, in our warrior culture and our warrior ethos, all those things are important, importance in a way that be ready and freely and giving away stuff. And so, yeah, that kept me straight for a while, but I had to be honest with you, Eddie. I mean, it sound as much as it sounded like I was a good kid, I wasn't. I had to confess that I was a bully in my neighborhood, in my neighborhood in Vietnam. Um, we used to, yeah. I mean, because of the political retribution by the communist regime in Vietnam when they took over, all these kids with red scarves that are walking around, whatever the case may be, I used to organize mini gangs and go and bully them up a little bit. When I attended high school here, in the U.S., I managed to took it up on myself to organize and execute what came to be the biggest high school fight of the school district. And if it weren't for the fact that I already signed my name on that dotted line, my recruiter came to high school and said, hey, my principal, his ass belonged to the Army, please don't kick him out, type of situation. Oh my God, man. I was like I said, I was a very hot-headed young person, very clear black and white dude. And I have not learned yet. I have not learned some of the lessons, humility lesson in life yet. But
I think it's
yeah,
important as young men, and a lot of times young women as well, we have these fires that boom inside of us. It just burns. We don't know what to do with all that built up aggression, energy, love, charisma. A lot of times people throw it in different spots where, as society standards go, it might not be appropriate. But
yeah.
you,
It was
but to me, that's a
they
major
were very
achievement.
inappropriate.
That's a
They were
major
very
achievement.
inappropriate.
Yes, yes. I know that
I
a
gave,
lot of schools don't like violence,
yeah.
but sometimes when that
I,
fire is
I
burning, it boils over. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's just a sense of justice, right? You had a sense of justice and a very keen sense of it, and how you want to see it execute. And when you don't see it execute, you take it upon yourself to execute it. And
Mhm.
oh my God, I gave my parents so much grief. And I was not a good. People say whatever it is, it's like I'm not. I'm not a good kid. I kept from my parents that I was going to join the Army. My parents were like, no, you would not join the Army. We didn't come to the U.S., fought a war and come to the U.S. so that you can join the Army again. Um, and Man, I finished high school and I kept a secret from my parents. And when I walked out that door, the door of the day that we went to MEPS, my mom was like crying. Both my mom and dad were in tears. And my mom was like so angry. She was like, you walked out that door. You're not my son anymore. And I still
Mm.
walked.
That
I
is
still
so
walked.
that really that gave me one chills, two, it resonated with me on a very deep level because it takes it takes a big sense of being able to remove oneself from how they want to be treated. Everybody wants their mom and dad to be excited for them and to love them and all these things. You walking out that door still because you were committed to um just being part of something way bigger than who we are as human beings or who our family is. Even though we wear our last names on our uniforms, you took a step out that door, and my heart goes out to you because that's not something that a lot of people would be able to do. I don't know if I could, if my mom and my dad were crying and said that, I don't know if I'd walk out the door. You're a very,
Yeah.
very powerful
Yeah.
human being for that.
Well, I don't know, man. It's like, that experience. I mean, so we've all been to trainings, tough training. We've all been through some really tough stuff. And, if you've never said, never uttered, these words, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, then you have not been in the military, like
Oh,
just
never.
like never, right? And it was like, so I've had many of those, WTF, moments, and yeah, but it's like other, majority of other kids, other young men and women were just joining because, they got blessing from their parents. They got, or if they don't have, or if they make, or if they had to make these independent decisions, it was because they didn't have parents that were given blessing, right? Um, for me, I did certainly, you're right. I mean, I certainly felt like, you know, um, and they found out that, I mean, it's like, man, I wouldn't have left if your parents said no. I'm like, I wouldn't. I'm like, going. I felt like a loner for a bit, for sure.
Mm.
You're right. I felt like, so that certainly brought into like sort of like, but hey, there's an itch that's got to be scratched.
Hmm. And it definitely
Yeah,
does show that you
yeah,
were willing to sacrifice what you have now for the betterment of one, your country, and that's something we can talk about in absolution as well. One, for your country, we need people with that type of charismatic attitude. I'm willing
mhm,
to let go of everything just to so someone else can hold on to something. That is the
yeah,
self-removing portion of it, and it is a lonely road to walk. The way of the warrior. They're hard lovers. They're hard, hard fighters. That is the way of the warrior, and I can definitely recognize a lot of the warrior values that I see in you.
yeah. Well, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah. So that dusty summer, 1989, when I earned my, 5 jump chumps, I was so happy. I was so freaking happy. I thought I was on top of the world. I sent yeah, so I sent tickets and stuff like that, graduation stuff to my dad, mom and dad, see if they would come. They wouldn't come. They weren't going to give me the satisfaction. I'm sure they were happy that I was doing okay and all that
Mhm.
other stuff, but like they weren't gonna give me the satisfaction that I give in to you. Um, yeah, but it was on that dusty field in Fort Benning, Georgia, in the summer of 1989. I met my best friend, my brother of another mother. Um, my Mike Anderson, and he was of one of those kids who had to make the decision to join the military by himself, in the army by himself. He was a foster kid. Didn't quite didn't know who really his parents were, his birth parents were. um and so the army was his life, and he was very excited to find a family. Um but yeah, and that's Dusty Field. We're seeing that also the kids and the parents are coming and whatever it is, and they pin on you wings and shit and all kind of stuff. It was just the two of us taking our sweet ass time, pulling our chute in and just slowly walk off the field by ourselves. That was it.
Mm.
We didn't have anybody to be over the stand to run to. So we just slowly just naturally, converge with each other and said hi and all that other stuff. And 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 we became brothers, and we just had this pact that was, it's like, hey man, you watch my six, yeah, I'll watch your six. We became that two brothers that, later on, no matter what happened in assignments and separation and units and all that other stuff, we kept we always kept in touch. And um he became a family. He became family to me. And likewise, it was like we had so many sweet moments post graduation. Went to party, beat up some bikers, got chased by bikers back to post. It was just the two of us. I was not a good kid. That's what I'm saying. In and out of uniform. I was like 19, and him too, and it was just wild. Young bucks. With wings on, we thought we could fly. We thought we could live forever.
Mm.
You know, um, yeah. And he went. Yeah, he got assigned to a different unit. I got assigned to 173rd. Um, Yeah, but as life has its way, eventually we eventually met, um, and deployed together, eventually. By this time I was out, away from the infantry, but got commissioned as an intel officer, and eventually made my way. And he pulled, by this time he was a senior NCO. He was a Green Beret. He made himself into, part of, first SF group here in Lewis, in JBLM. And he said, "Hey man, hey Lynn, our intel guy got sick. Um, what if I can pull some shit and cut order for our captain, our major, to pull you over?" I'm like, "What the fuck, man? Come on, man. Yeah, let's do this shit." Right.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I was there. I basically, yeah, by this time I was the youngest, I made company command. I was the youngest company commander of the Pacific Theater, and I had some credential on me, into which he was able to make the case and pull my ass out of the conventional army, and brought me over to to hang out with him for a special deployment, with his team to Thailand. And so we hung out for a few months in Chiang Mai, North Chiang Mai. So unfortunately, in one of the border raids into, with the Thai military, into Laos, he took the bullet for me. So I lost my best friend in the world. Um, I had to bag him, tag him, and then got extraction. The helicopter extraction, um, and that was the last time I saw Mike. I think I was pretty angry, at that time in the Army. Through his wisdom, was pull me out of assignment, send me back stateside, back here at Lewis, JPL, Fort Lewis, they call it back then. Um, Gave me another company to run, but my heart was basically out. My heart was dead. And so I get rescued by my future wife. We met, and fortunately, she gave me the ultimatum. Just like, "Hey, it's either me or the Army." And I often tell everybody I chose wisely. So I turn in. Yeah, I typed up. I remember typed up my letter of resignation and went to my brigade commander and just said, "Hey, that's my time to go, sir." And he was like, "I kind of felt that. I just didn't know when you're going to submit your letter." And I was like, I knew it was going to be soon. I read your profile and all that shit, and I'm like going, well, it's today. And he was like, "All right, well, let's set some shit, or just go over to the S1 shop, and we'll out processing you." Yeah. So that was how my adventure in the service ended. That was like fall of 1997. So a span of 10 years, from 87 to 97. That was my time in service. So my two biggest, the two things that show up in my DD-214 would be like, my first stint was Operation Just Cause in Panama, and the bookend of it would be Desert Storm. So that was those are the two things that showed up. Everything else was just stuff.
Yeah.
They call it, the Army have an acronym, call it OTWA, Operations Other Than Wars. As a line item with everything else. So yeah, that was sort of like, that was the end of my time in the Army.
Well, there's a whole lot to unpack there. Well, for obvious reasons. One, I wanted to wish you the most sincere of condolences on the loss of your brother. I could not put in words what it feels like to even hear what you experienced. I couldn't imagine going through it yourself. And I love that you spoke about it for a lot of reasons. Mike Anderson doesn't have to just be gone. He can live in memory. You can vocalize what his smile looked like. You can talk about your favorite experiences with him. You guys getting into fights when you're 19 years old, and you gravitating towards him after your ceremony when you graduated Airborne school. I love that, and I think there's true beauty to be found in how we create relationships over the years, and you and him having those special moments. It really stands out to me, man. You have my most sincere condolences. You know, the people that sign up and go overseas, a lot of the times, but people back home don't grasp what is really on the other end. They see some pictures here or there. We show them the cool stuff. They get to see all the gadgets, the guns, of course. They get to see the ships. They get to see the tanks. They get to see this is what I look like. Oh, I took a little. I posed for the Humvee. I remember looking at my dad's deployment book and looking through all his pictures and all his friends, and he had a difficult time talking about him for a lot of reasons because he lost friends overseas. There's a lot that goes into how we recover from an incident like that. How do you, how would you recommend anybody suffering from loss of a friend or a brother in your instance? How do you recommend somebody getting started, because it's almost unfathomable?
Well, I think if you cannot confide in someone, you need to find someone that you can confide in and tell the story to. If you cannot find someone, find something. Go to a goddamn forest and talk to the trees. Made a rock, talk to the rock, talk to something, because you cannot keep it in yourself. The things that will eat you, that will get you to dark places, is because you keep it to yourself. You figure that you have a thing about veterans, especially those who deployed or impacted by deployment, at least, is that the military have taught us processing us in a way to just be able to suck up and drive on. Suck it up and drive on. Overcome, improvise, whatever terminology you want to use it, but it's like it's reinforced. It reinforced. It made you becoming very good at overcoming adversities. But it's also has a double-edged sword, because it is also something that will make you very prone to bottle things up and not processing traumas. Then traumas oftentimes doesn't have to be physical traumas, because people can deal a lot better with physical traumas. It's the emotional traumas that is very messy, and unfortunately, the military is not good at that. Has not been good at that. And so for obvious reasons, right? Because you can't, you can't let that emotional baggage bring into the job, or bring into the, whatever it is. You got to be focused. Otherwise, people are
Compartmentalize,
hurt.
yeah.
You got to compartmentalize, or people get hurt,
Mm.
right? The problem with compartmentalize is that the stuff that is compartmentalized built up, just like everything that built up over time, and it built up so much that you don't even know where and how to unpack the stuff. I would say to find someone to confide in, find a good counselor, find a good pastor, find a good psychologist, find a good rock, find a good tree, talk to them. Because the less judgmental the object of conversation from, the better it is. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I know that many veterans love nature. They go to the nature because they're able to see themselves to something that's more peaceful and serene, accept them for who they are, and there's, you can be dirty, smelling, whatever. You're in the element again, and the tree doesn't judge you, the stream, the water, the bird doesn't judge you. And so you have to have that conversation with nature and have conversation with with whoever you need to talk to, especially with yourself. Only problem with that we tend to go alone, and that is not always a good thing. It is in solitude that it's also could be, when you don't have someone, when you're not with a person that you can be accounted for, when you don't have your friends or somebody you can, that you can be accounted for, then, too, then it's very easy for you to say, well, all right, well, I get to make this decision on my own. And, in many ways that could be very detrimental to our own well-being at the same time. So,
Absolutely.
I think my advice, and I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor in any form. I don't play one on TV either. But I would highly recommend, find someone to so that you can confide in.
So one of the coping mechanisms I like to use to help me kind of process anything in life that is even remotely going to mess with how I normally do things on a day-to-day basis is self-reflection. I ask myself, can I make this situation any better? And the most important part about me doing that is whatever answer comes back, I focus on what I can control. There's so many things we can't control. We can't decide who doesn't like us. We can't decide who decides that we aren't good for their world and decides to cut us out of their life. We can't decide about what family members might abandon us, might accept us for who we are personally. We can't decide where we get deployed to, and we definitely can't decide when the aircraft carrier is not going to break down right off the coast of Iraq, leaving us exposed to the Iranian military. So we can't all decide all these things, but I like to focus on what I can control. And usually it's my actions, my words, and how I react to people telling me what my words made them feel. I try to focus on those three things. There's many times where us in the venture community, and I hope you can agree with this as well, that we feel like we have to save the world and we just cannot, or that we feel like we are personally super powerful when we have things literally falling apart on us. Like tearing my shoulder was not something I didn't want to accept it. I could still start jujitsu on Tuesday when I was supposed to sign up. It's fine. It's just a labral and a completely destroyed ligament. I can start, and it was hard for me to accept I cannot. I didn't want to let go of the things I could control. So I think it's very healthy to practice controlling what you can, your breathing, like you said, go out in nature, control your environment, your setting, turn off the Facebook, turn off the Instagram, unplug and heal. I think that is one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling under, the glooms, man, because there's so many times where the world can seem it's an avalanche or just a tidal wave of everything that could go wrong in your life. How you look at that is really important. So that's something I definitely value.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. In every situation, I ask myself, what is it that I can get out of? Like, what can I lose? What is the one thing that, or what is the one thing that I could gain out of the situation? What is that one thing that I could get out of? What lesson, what item, what benefit, whatever you want to call it, what's in it for me? And once I name that thing, and if I can get that thing, and that's it. And then everything else is negotiable. Everything else could be lost, and I will still be okay. And I will still be okay. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big. And one of the things that I like to do for myself when I don't get to go out to nature and all that stuff, or when I feel my energy or my field of world is a little bit on shaky ground, or I feel like the vibration is too much negative vibration, either generated by me or from others to me, I think one of the things that I learned um as the trade, as in the trade we often did, was like, for me, it was a ruck march. I would put on my ruck. I still have my ruck. So once in a while, just put my ruck on, put my boots on, just walk.
I love that. I think movement is life to me. It's been that
Movement.
way for
Yeah.
so long. Just any movement, go out, just move. If you
Right.
get a sedentary
And
lifestyle, will eat you
move in
up.
a way, yeah, and move in a way that will ground us. Move in a way that will remind every fiber in your body that this is you, like me and me, right? This is a conversation I need to have with me and me. And I need to feel my feet. I need to feel every step. I need to feel how the joint works. And I get to hear that guy who's like, man, this hurts, and like be able to tune out, even with noises around, be able to be focused and center. And one of the great ways to do that for me, I don't know, everybody else has their own methodology, but for me, it was just a simple ruck march. Take an hour or two, just go and walk, and let that ruck bounce on you. You feel like you want to run a little bit, let it bounce on you. Let the shoulder feel the burn a little bit. Let the back feels a little pain. Let the
Mhm.
joint tells you goddamn too fucking old for this shit. You know, it's great because it's grounded me, and it would be like saying, yeah, but I get to make one more step. That's
Mm,
what I get out of it, right? What I get out of it is like, what if I make one more step? I
mm.
took one more step. Okay, that's it. I'll make one more step.
Uh,
Right? And it
It's
is
like a
like, yeah,
mental
so that,
boxing match.
yeah, it is a shadow, incredibly like this shadow boxing stuff going on. And I was just like, it was just me and me. And it was, and that was it. That was just like, I get into the zone that way. And, um, um, yeah, so that's like one of the things that I try to do on a regular basis.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna take a leaf out of your book, and I'll make sure to let you know what I'm doing it to and how I feel after. I'm gonna load up my pack and go. I got a 30-pound jam ball. I got some weights over here. We can figure it out. I got a pack. I ordered it. I ordered a pack. Yeah, I did. I love to have some gear I can just tear up because I only have a couple pairs of nice clothes and a lot of gym stuff and a lot of work stuff because I'll work 70-hour weeks before I'll say no to 70-hour weeks and spend time with my family because I have to provide. But every now and then I like to go out there and tear it up in the wilderness and just to live life. So I definitely bought myself a shooting outfit where I go up in the snow, I go up in the woods or whatever, and I'm able to lay down in the dirt and not care and just breathe and be a part of nature. Focus on just one thing. Put a little piece of lead into a piece of steel or into a pumpkin that I just used because I'm going to help it decompose properly in nature. And then I pick up grass or trash, my brass, and then I leave. I'm able to take from from nature what doesn't belong, get something out of nature, and also throw something at something I want to throw something at, and get out that frustration, the rage. I know that you happen to love doing things out in nature and you're also a huge giver. What is the one thing that you've been doing quite a bit over the past few years helping with? I think it's the mission continues or something like that. I might have paid attention a little bit. Tell me about the mission continues.
No, actually, it's as a turnout. I mean, I volunteer. I mean, I volunteer first. I volunteer with the Mission Continuous, and it really, as a veteran organization, it aligned with my personal values, the notion of giving back and giving back to the community. And so, um, and so the Mission Continue does that. It doesn't. It's an outward facing organization that it doesn't it says that there's more to the veteran than coming home and often being seen and labeled and judged, even amongst ourselves, that we're hurt,
Mm,
that that we come home and we're entitled to benefits, right? um so we're trying to, as an organization, it has as a mission to try to give and say that, hey, the things that we learned, the things that made us who we are profoundly beneficial to the community, that we can bring people together, that the way we train, the way we communicate, the way we build team could be a good model for others to see what collaboration looks like, for us to learn and to integrate back into the community by serving, right? So service is not just being in uniforms. Service is to be out of uniform too, and giving veterans a sense of purpose that is beyond just leaving the military and let's make some money, right? What does making money mean? Absence of service to others, right? And so that, making money is not enough. That has to have a bigger purpose, and that bigger purpose for us is giving ourselves to the greater goods. And so that's why mission continues, get our veterans together, working with non-veterans, to serve in under-resourced communities, in communities that are very resilient to poverty and things to which that we saw overseas that are happening here at home, that often poverty and lack of opportunities gave rise to extremism, give rise to terrorism, give rise to extremist elements, and easy people to, young people easily got indoctrinated and got angry, like the angry young self that I was sharing with you earlier, and our younger selves. That, if I was in a different place, in a different country, a different world where lack of opportunities, lack of poverty, or because of poverty, that somehow someone else might have, steer me in a different direction, I could be a different person, right? But those are the things happen in our inner cities. Those are the things that happen in our, poor neighborhoods. And so the mission continues to help focus our veterans' resources and help focus our veterans' energy into going to the inner cities and help support, not be the white saviors, right? Not be this, capitalist saviors, not being the American saviors, whatever it is. But we're trying to be in there to lend our hands and lend our voices to work side by side with community organizers and community leaders already doing that, so that we can learn from each other, but collaborate and hopefully create a better future for those young ones, for those who are in that community. So I volunteered first for a couple of years, but the reason why I found out about the Mission Continuum as I volunteer was because by this time, I have happened to be get pretty deep into civic engagement work in the community, and by this time I was a staffer for a member of Congress in Seattle. So I became like a first person in my family to work in U.S. Congress, and so part of my portfolio was to connect and understand and engage with the veterans community more. So that's how I reached out and found out about Mission Continuum and volunteered with that organization first. And when I left my work at the congressional office, I became a staff, so I became a full-time employee for the Mission Continuum, trying to coach, mentor, build, elevate veteran voices all over the country, to engage in that in community engagement work. So that was the Mission Continues.
Well, I really love what you just said there. You had, a lot of times we think about the government, we don't think about anything positive at all. A lot of us say, oh, government, you got Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and the guy was before him, Obama, and then you got the guy before him, and the guy. We don't think about the beautiful things that people at our local levels, something we can actually affect change with at our local levels, want to be branching out in the veteran community. They want to deal with the homeless crisis that is flagrant, just exploding throughout Seattle area, and how we deal with it, how we help people by providing them resources, by providing the youth hope, by going to a playground and seeing it clean. This is a nice place. This is where a mom can take their child and create memories. Safe places aren't something that, it's used like all the time. the word safe place, but having a real safe place can change a child's life. Not having to worry about poverty, not having to worry about judgment, not having to worry about bullies, gangs, violence, gun issues, all these things. We can all do our part, and I think that the Mission Continues is definitely doing a great job with that. I see the park cleanups. I know a couple people that are members, and I admire what where their heart is, because it's directed towards helping others, just as yours is. One of the thing that I really, really would like to ask and know, what is your favorite part about helping other people?
You feel that you felt you accomplished something.
Mm,
That that like I said, I mean, it's like you never know what impact you're gonna make. You know, right? And it's like as an organization and as an organization, we're always trying to measure impacts, right? But here's a what I call it, a strange dichotomy is that, or a note, a strange thing is that, what, whatever impacts, whatever things we're trying to measure, they're not really measured.
mm.
The things that is most, the things that is so strange is that that the truest measure of your impact is when you're no longer there. That
Wow.
you're not there to witness it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
So the impact of the Mission Continues will not be truly felt until it is no longer an organization. It's gone. It served its purpose for whatever reason. It's gone. The impact that that we see in our, the story that we heard from our grandparents is like, oh man, did you hear about that guy or that person, or the heroes of, many moons ago, like Alexander the Great, or whoever the hell these guys were, Genghis Khan, or whoever, all the historical figures. The reason why, at the time that they're living, yeah, they made impact, but they're not lasting impacts. The lasting impact is when they're gone, no longer being there to bear witness to the fruits of your labor, right? And so to me, that is a strange dichotomy. And one of the things I often heard a lot of veterans in my connection engaging with them is like they're very frustrated about coming back and see the things that are happening at home. People are angry, people will get polarized. It's like they question their their service, and come back and see all this crap that's going on and dilapidated schools and whatever. They felt that their time and service was wasted. I said, no. I mean, you can look at it that way, but here's a strange thing. Here's the strangest thing, right? You could look at that as the vast majority of American public. The reason why they're acting that way is because they're privileged. Like they're privileged to the fact that they didn't know what we were doing, and because we did such a good job collectively, right? And all these guys and gals who are, our younger brothers and sisters who are like manning the wall somewhere, and some of this stuff somewhere, like the world will never know, and the world should not know, and the world should be privileged. And
Absolutely.
because we've done such a good job of it, the world is just acting like they know what we were doing.
Mhm.
And
Ignorance.
because,
Ignorance is
right,
bliss.
ignorance, but that meant that we did good.
Mm.
That means that you did good. Don't be angry. Be happy. Like I love this quote from Sun Tzu, from not from Sun Tzu, but from Lao Tzu. Right? It's like we often quote some Western great philosophers, but I love Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu is considered to be the founding father of Taoism, in coming out of China.
Okay.
And he said this great thing about leadership. I'll paraphrase it, but you can search on this quote, and it's like, he said, leadership is when it's all said and done, the people would have said, we did it. Not the leader.
The people.
The people recognize, but it is the leader. The leader's job is to corral, to bring people together, empower them, let them realize their own power, and became the glue that brought people together and together make create an impact and a lasting impact for themselves,
Yes.
not given to them, right? Right? Not giving to them, but they did it themselves. And to me, like that is like I love that philosophy, is because then people are truly understood and utilize their own power. They are not being empowered, right? But they have understood and finally understood their own sense of being, their own power, and then used in a way collaboratively together to make a lasting impact together, right? And so you don't need to put someone out on the pedestal. The leader will just step back into the background and not being recognized at all. And that is like, I love that aspect. So it's like, to me, the way I measure impact, the way I see it, the way I want it to have impact is I get to see, I get to be the observer and step back and watch the impact being made because of my contribution. All the while, everybody else would not have said Lynn had something to do with it. Eddie wouldn't have anything to do with it. Oh, because of Eddie, this happened. Or because of Lynn, this happened. No, they would have said, oh, we did it. And you get to be the objective observer and watch how it got done. Because absence of us, it wouldn't have got done. And it got done. And people would have just moved on as if you weren't there in the first place. That is, to me, that's how lasting impact is being made.
Wow. There's so many lessons of direct wisdom that you just provided, man. I really hope that I'm gonna have to listen back to this. I'm gonna have to take some more notes, because I took a lot of notes so far. I always like to grasp an idea of who you are, what you stand for, without saying it, right? The messages behind your words, the things that you don't tell me that your story just reaches out and slaps me in the face with. That is astronomical. The idea of who are you once you're removed. That is what leadership is once you're removed completely. And how are they doing? It broke my heart to hear that my sailors were having struggles once I left a leadership position in the military, and to hear the stories and to touch about them and try to figure out where they could go, where they can affect change when it's their turn to be a leader. But the military doesn't work like that. A lot of people base their first 4 years off of, and that's, or their military experience off their first 4 years. So whoever their current leadership it is, they can't have the vision to see past it, and they don't want to even try roll the dice for another time because of poor leadership. Poor leadership is definitely the major driving factor in the issues we're facing in the United States military. We don't have an overmanning issue. We have a leadership problem, a major leadership problem, and it can be solved with a lot of things, with having leaders, real leaders who step up. People like, I can just go down a list of leaders for me. Were there some people who you didn't serve with that were leaders that stuck out to you, or some people that you did serve with that you want to mention right now, people, and talk about a little bit about why they inspired you to try to emulate some of the differentiating characteristics they showed?
Yeah, I think all the moms, I think the women's that we served with, all those sisters and arms, my gosh, the sacrifices, the kind of crap they have to put up with, in a male dominated, profession. I think we can all emulate. I think we can all need to extract and see and recognize the invisible contribution and the visible contribution that the women and the women's in uniforms and out of uniforms. We've had, we still have stigmas to which we have women, that are walking into the VA or walking to other veterans organization and say, and go to the PX or whatever it is and said, where's your husband? Who, where's your spouse? Because the assumption is that is the male person is the one in service, the one that has the VA card. It's the one who, whatever it is. And it's turned out, no, that's not the case. Literally a third of those in wearing the uniforms right now are women, and many more of them have come out of service, didn't feel like they belong anywhere, because veterans organizations, for the most part, are still led and run by a bunch of guys,
and only cater to that as well.
yeah, and they don't, and so to me, I've always looked up to people like Amy Staymeyer,
She's awesome.
right? She
Absolutely
embodies that.
amazing.
She embodies what I was talking, and I've been sharing with you. Like, she's in the background, she's doing all these things. Da, 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 da. She never wanted to be sticking out, to be like whatever the case may be. But wherever she's at, impact is being made. Whatever she's doing, supporting each other, others succeed. Leadership is about lifting other people up, not about lifting yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Amy is a person, to me, is as somebody who does that. Right. And she's just one example. I mean, it is not a coincidence. You talk to people who knows in the mission continues. It's not coincidence that the majority of my platoon leaders, the platoon leaders that I worked for and supported, were women. And I did that intentionally because I want to elevate them, so that others would see the impact that they really are, right? Because they were doing all that stuff. They've been super moms, super soldiers, super airmen, super marines, super, sailors, super wives, super all this sort of stuff. And that's just what they do. Right. So to me, like that would be it. Right. So dropping names, but beyond that, I think moms and sisters, at arms, and our veteran sisters. I think those are the people that I appreciate you giving me the, time to get on my soapbox about that. But they are truly somebody that we all need to take pause, and, the next time all of the guys, feel like they are to step up and say something, is to take a pause. Learn to practice the pause. And one of the ways to practice the pause is practice the pause of having this need and want to step up and be the first to say something or to do something. And to practice that pause, and to be like the women in your lives, because they have been practicing that pause to let you step up and be the first guy, to be the first one to say something and do something. And then whatever mistake you get to make, they get to cover that shit for you to make you shine. Practice the reverse order. Practice that pause. Step back. Let the women step forward. Encourage and provide an environment, and safe and open and environment for them to step forward. And whatever mistakes they get to make, you get to cover, and you get to protect, you get to fix, you get to whatever it is, so that they get to shine. Do the things to which they have done for us all these thousands and thousands of years. Do the thing in reverse.
I love that. That is something that's huge. I think you're absolutely right. One of the main contributors to how I understand the idea of how to be a leader is by stopping when one of my sailors was, and I'm not going to say her name out of confidentiality. I saw her crying in the hallway. The P-way is what they call them on a ship. But now I'm in the real world and I call it a hallway. So I was walking in the hallway and I saw this young lady crying. This is someone who's only a couple years younger than me, but to me, as a leader, these were people I would stick up for. These are people I would defend from being abused by poor leadership, stop them from being sexually harassed, whatever needed to be done at that point. And seeing as a young sailor cry, I asked her what's going on. She's like, I miss my son so much, I can't even take it anymore. And I'm like, it really hit me like a ton of bricks. This person birthed another human being. I could not imagine being separated from my child and serving. Like, what more could you give? You already created life. That's pretty huge. I don't know about you, but I can't do that. So doing that is gigantic to me. And now we have somebody who is separated from their child while serving the military. They literally pushed a baby out of their body. I cannot imagine the type of mental fortitude it takes to continue the day-to-day activities, let alone be more than a couple miles away from my child. That's gonna be. I'm gonna be honest. When I have babies next year, it's gonna be hard for me to leave my children. I really love the idea of being a present father and a present parent, and I know that the ladies who serve in our nation's military are as well. It is a huge thing to be a mother. It is even more to be a mother in the military. So shout out to all you moms out there. I have so much love and appreciation for you. You are literally show the example of what strength, mental fortitude, dexterity, and selfless sacrifice looks like. So shout out to the moms out there. 100% agree with you, Lynn.
Yeah, man. Courage, oftentimes in the military, we talk about courage as a physical, and show up in form of physical courage. No, man. It's when you became an NCO, when you became like officers and all that stuff, it's moral courage, right? It's mental courage, it's moral courage, it's psychological courage, whatever you want to label it, right? It's not physical. Right. Even when you go to Spec Ops world, and everybody, as soon as you go to Spec Ops world, so what do? They didn't care about, they're just stressing the hell out of you. They're just stressing your body out is to get to your psychological strength. Right. It's about your mental fortitude, right?
Pulling back the layers.
Exactly. Right. They weed out the weak is by definition, the weak in the mind, not weak in the body, And it's like, and as you can see, and if our Spec Ops community have clearly say that be more like the women, and it's not an aha moment for you, then you're just dumb as a rock, and you shouldn't be anywhere in that community, and for all those right reasons, And I was like, luckily it's been an epiphany for me, and if you talk to me, you talk to anybody else, like I've always, I use my platform, I use whatever pedestal anybody have given me at any moment in time to talk up the women in my lives, and I talk to the women's and everybody. So are they perfect? No, they're not. They have their fault, and they make the similar mistakes as guys do, and whatever the case may be, they have their challenges, and they have whatever the case may be. But you know what? Let them shine. Support them.
Yes, absolutely, brother. I love that.
Yeah, because they've been supporting us all this time. If you're a real man, you support your women.
100%. And I try to emulate that exact ideology when it comes to my wife. Every time I see her do something, it just blows me away. And I've been like this. I've been her biggest fan since I don't even know. I've been her biggest fan forever. Everything she does, whether it's hair school, getting her real estate license, her telling me that she wants me to be the father of her children, all these, I want to be her biggest fan, her biggest supporter ever in all she does. And if she ever feels like I'm not supporting her, I try to make a way to do it. I can definitely say that I can do a much better job of practicing the pause and letting her shine. I think I subconsciously overshadow subconsciously, and also consciously, now that I know about it, overshadow the greatness that she tries to show the world when I try to explain the greatness she shows the world. So I really can't sit here and say how amazing she is. I would just tell people to go look at her Instagram, see what she does on a day-to-day basis. And I can talk about what she's done for me. Making my meals when I was doing bodybuilding. When I'm working 70-hour weeks and eating my meals in escalator grease, when I get home, I'm pretty burnt out. I almost crashed my car a bunch of times headed to work. I'm in an elevator trade, so I'm eating on top of elevators, eating while I'm in an escalator. I'm just shoving food in my face. I would have never been able to accomplish that if it wasn't for my amazing wife taking time out of her day after work to make my food. I wouldn't be here in the military and be even able to be conscious while my father was dying when I was deployed, and she held his hand for 3 days, didn't even leave the hospital. She did that for me. I don't even know if I could do that as a human being. I would go take a shower or something. She stayed there at the hospital for 3 days. Our women are capable of such selfless sacrifice. It's almost embedded in their nature. And I think we are men of action. Usually we have a genetic disposition to act. Go. Oh, you have a problem? What's wrong with your day? Oh, well, you should just tell her to F off then. We don't do the best of sounding boards sometimes as a society. I think we can improve in a lot of categories. And I'd love to be the first one to say Then I'm gonna start practicing the pause. Thank you for that knowledge and that gift, my brother. I'm gonna start practicing that more.
Well, sure. I mean, if I can convince one more brother to practice the pause for your women in my life, in your life, then you know, my mission is accomplished.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Well, kind of one thing that I wanted to know before we kind of wrap up, I have to know, what would you say is one of the number one issues facing the veteran community, and how do we work to solve it? Just off the top of your head, because for me, last year I lost 24 friends, 23 of which were veterans to suicide. I think that's a major issue, and there's many ways we can approach it as a team, as a group, as a society, as Americans, as human beings. We can approach how we deal with mental health in America better. But that's just one issue. There's homelessness. There's there's so many things. What is one of the things that we face in the veteran community here, and how do we approach it in your opinion?
In my estimation, the veterans community is still being looked at by society as worthy to listen to. That we because of our experience, we just want to solve stuff. We're problem solvers, and we're problem solvers in a way that we're not partisan, right? That whatever your political affiliation that you might have or we're going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But because of our experience, guess what? We're going to be willing to listen to each other. Or we're not willing to, right? And we're not willing to that. I'm not gonna treat you like an enemy because I know you're not my enemy, right? And you're not gonna treat me like an enemy because I'm not your enemy. We're just two different cats. He likes chocolate. I don't like it, but it's okay. I accept him, right? Accept him who he is. I mean, just literally, we have so many jokes around, about having a buddy or just whatever it is, like, man, that guy, God damn it, But he's that's it, right? Mm-hmm. He's kooky, whatever the case, but, we serve together. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? And so for me, I think a very important issue that we could continue to serve our country and serve each other and serve our community and serve our society well. I think one thing is that our veterans still don't know what your civic duty responsibilities are. I think you touched on something. You said, "Oh, government sucks. Government sucks." Well, you were part of government, right? You're part of the government. You're a very blunt instrument of the government, right? And so, but we're part of the government. I think veterans need to understand our governments better, because after all, we were willing to die for it. We could memorize the goddamn FM manuals up to the yin yang, but most veterans I know have not read through the Constitution.
Oh boy.
Most veterans I know have not understood the way the three branches of government works. I asked my brother and sister, not, if you don't want to be in that world, that's fine, but you need to understand your government. You need to understand that you're the boss of that government. Yes. Now that you're not a part of the branch anymore, you are the citizen, and as a citizens, we are the bosses of our government.
Yes, we the people.
Yeah. Be a smart boss. Right?
Absolutely.
Be a smart boss. Right? You don't have to become an elected leader if you don't want to, but be a smart boss. Ask the right questions. Ask your employees right questions. Ask the potential employees. These are people who come and want to get your votes, whatever it's. And it's because our voice is so important that other people in society still listen to us as a voice of reason, as they have differential treatment to veterans because we put our life on the line, a selfless service, right? And so they listen to our opinion. So when some kooky person is about to get everybody going to the deep end about something, you say, hold on a minute here. You're just whipping people up emotionally for no good reason, whether you're left, right. Okay? This is how I wouldn't want that to be person who leads me into battle. You'd be a terrible person to ask of us to sacrifice.
Because that's emotion. It's an emotional response.
It's an emotional response, right? The reason why we train so well so that we will come to a situation of life and death. We take out the emotional response and we look at the problem, we see, assess situation, what we're going to be capable to do right now, act, move on, make another cycle of decisions again, right? And all these things, they taught us in this way so that we can continue to function in a high stress environment. So we are, society, veterans and those men and women are buying the rest of society time. They put on a uniform, they're serving out there, they're dying and hurting out there, is to buy everybody else time. Time to understand, time to elect, time to put effective governments together so that if and when they ask us to go die somewhere, it would have been something that is worthy and something that is good, something that is necessary. So as veterans, the way that if you want your brothers and sisters right now who wear the uniforms and go out there and hurting and dying for the right reason, you need to be the ones. Your next mission, your next mantle, your next mission in life is to make sure we have a functional, good, effective government. Most basic thing I would ask our brothers and sisters out there, please go read the Constitution. It's very short, easy to read, okay? And don't stop at the Second Amendment or don't stop at the First Amendment, because that's what the politicians wanted us to be, is to get wrapped up in our heads, right? And become enemies of each other, whether you're on the first or the second. I'm going to ask you right now, Eddie, how many amendments there are in the Constitution?
13.
No, sir.
No, man. Oh, man. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't read the Constitution in years.
I know.
I know the first, the second, and the fourth, and I live them. I live them every single.
And everybody take the fifth all the time. And when people
yes,
say,
and the
I'm
fifth
going to take the fifth, it's the Fifth Amendment.
Yes, Lord.
Right?
I haven't read the Constitution in 2 years, and I have a few TBIs, and I'm super dyslexic. So you know what? I'm gonna write it down. I haven't read. Usually every year I spend a month learning about different aspects of how the Constitution was created and things like that. So I'm gonna write it down. My annual training's up.
Man. Read it, have it read to you. I don't care how you learn it. There's different learning modal out there, just like whatever it is, understand it. Because the Constitution, whatever differences we may have, whether your belief system, you believe one God, two gods, a bunch of gods, no gods, doesn't matter. We were all governed under one law. And the foundation of that law is the Constitution of the United States.
Yes, Lord.
Absolutely. If you don't understand the one law that governs the rest of our lives, we have a problem, Eddie. Okay, and as veterans, it'll behoove upon us, because we're still one of those groups in society is still revered by the population, by society. Now it's incumbent upon us to understand and expect and lead, bring people together, and lead in a way that would demand and work toward better governance, and the rest of shit will fix it by itself. The leadership problem will be fixed.
I really do admire that. I just want to say that there's 33 amendments to the Constitution as of today. I just double checked. So I'll be deep diving into every single one of them. You just gave me some homework, and I do appreciate you asking me, because, well, for a multitude of reasons. One, it's super important to find out new information that you are completely oblivious of previously. Two, it's always important that you have a foundation. So a U.S. Constitution, part of being an American in this country is understanding the foundation we have here. We can't build extremely tall buildings with weak constitutions. It doesn't work. We don't have great, super tall, powerful human beings with great spirits and great leadership without a foundation. We have to have that foundation. Our grandpas gave us that foundation. So thank you for reminding me. I love that you put me on the spot and I messed it up. I'm gonna look it up. Tonight. I'm probably gonna do some homework, and I'll let you know some of the most important ones that I see that there are. You're right. We shouldn't just stop at the first.
Here's a clue for you.
Uh-huh.
Here's a clue for you, Eddie. They're all equal.
Yes.
All of the amendments are equal to each other. Doesn't matter if they're first or the last.
Okay.
They are equal in weight. The reason because they have to be equal is because every amendment has to be introduced into the Constitution, has to work with every other amendment. Like it has to fit in with the Constitution, and every aspect of that Constitution, it becomes the Constitution, and the Constitution becomes it. So the 15th or the 16th or the 17th or the 18th or the 19th is just as important as the first one. They're equal in weight. It's not chronological. Their chronological was because they became introduced and they passed into the part of the Constitution. They got amended. The Constitution got amended, basically. Right? And so it doesn't mean first mean number one. Second, it doesn't mean you got the silver, prize, right? It's not like that. It's just that the first set were 10. And then it got through, the next time that we ended up having the amendment set of amendments, it took us to the Civil War. It took us killing each other as brothers for us to introduce and pass another set of amendments into the Constitution. It's insane to think of it that way, right? But it is, but they're all equally important.
And the 14th Amendment was surrounding getting rid of slavery, correct?
Yes, sir. The 14th and the 15th. And right, and the 15th, unfortunately, the 15th Amendment, unfortunately, the 14th and 15th, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, ended slavery and, all this other stuff. Unfortunately, it didn't go far enough. And that's why, after the 15th Amendment, it came the period of Jim Crow, the segregation.
100%.
Right.
And I think you bring up segregation. It is Black History Month, so I think it's important to touch on this.
Yes.
Well, every month to me is Black History Month. Every month is every history month because everybody who has ever been involved in America has developed its culture. Every single buddy. One of my favorite things to talk
Black History. Yeah, Black History Month. Black History have been a part of this foundation of this story of America before it was a nation.
Yes, Lord. Absolutely. I completely agree with
you. We're a nation. Black history has been involved in the colonies, in the slave trades, and all this other stuff that is before the founding of this nation.
Black history is definitely American history. Yes, it is. It is 100%. And I wish people.
It's a world history. Black history is world history.
Yes.
Right?
We get. How many times do they put out?
Right. Black history is world history. It's gone back to the birth of the human civilization. If the scientists and everything have gone back to the genome and said that, trace back to the first known ever, primate that got on 2 feet and walked, was in Africa. Black history is world history. Our genes is connected to Africa, the continent of Africa itself. Black history is world history. It's human history. It's not even just American history. That's how far back we need to go and recognize that.
I love how you said that because it is definitely true. I know that when my family's roots got explained to me by my father's side, he's like, yeah, our roots trace all the way back to the Zulu tribe in Africa. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I plan on doing one of those 23andMe things, and actually trace my roots in the very near future. And I'm super excited to share with the world like what I find out, because I know that my mom's side is very, very, they don't know what's going on over there. They really don't. All right. I know I got the Zulu tribe on one side, and then on the other side of my heritage, I have no idea. But I can't wait to learn more about it.
I'm excited for you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One thing I like to say about what you brought up is the importance of understanding rights and the importance of understanding our place in America as veterans, and how do we continue the mission, I would say in a sly way right there. How do we continue the mission here? by being bipartisan, by being looking for the greater good, by removing emotion and acting in a way that's going to help other people. I think it's important that we do that. And I've tried to, I, I got to be honest. Back in 2020, there were a lot of political jokes to make, so I put up some memes. But I really do hope that me personally, I can make an impact in other people and help them realize that your local governments are where you're going to solve most of your problems, not at a federal level. That is all the way almost 3,000 miles away to Washington D.C. from where we're at. So that's not going to necessarily help you all the time.
They fix
Get
different
You
things.
even know your
Different,
mayor?
yeah, different level of government fix different things. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's like you know your M4 and your sidearm is the most important, unique, like something that is important to you now. But if you gotta go to get a howitzer to solve a problem, it's a little bit further out, right? Require a
Hmm.
little bit more stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, trying to get to freaking F-22 to send a missile somewhere. That's another level, right? It to me, they're just tools, right? They're just
Yes.
tools. They're not more important than the other. We gave too much credence and deference to all these titles of these honorable this and presidential that, or whatever the case may be. They're just employees. They're temporary employees at best, that we collectively gave them our power. We gave them our power, Eddie.
Mm.
They don't have inherent power. They're not superhumans. They make stupid mistakes. They walk on 2 feet. They eat and shit. They sleep, and they require rest, and they need to have good, mental rest and psychological. And they are easily influenced by external and internal factors, just like all of us.
Mm.
They are only as good as we let them be.
100%.
They're only as good as we coach them to be.
Mm.
If we don't teach them to be good employees, if we don't train our employees to be good employees, how are they going to be good employees, Eddie? They don't know how. They're going to invent shit on their own.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're gonna roll the dice for sure, and rolling dice at the expense of
At expense of
American
other
life is
people,
not good.
it's
It's not
never a good thing.
never,
It's
never.
never a good thing. So I implore you, I implore other veterans to educate yourself, to be more informed citizen, to and more informed, understand our governments better, and let's get together and make some impact and change the way things are, because it can be changeable.
Hmm.
This is a human construct. It's a human problem. It can be solved. And we as veterans has a very big and important role in solving that. Yeah, that's I leave you with that, my friend.
I'm definitely gonna take a leaf out of your book because I wrote down everything you touched on, so I'm definitely gonna get after it. I look forward to absorbing this new knowledge. I spent so much time learning about electricity, learning about different electronic parts, and going into how they interchange with mechanical parts on escalators, elevators. It's time to try to reconnect with how much I love this. I can love red, white, and blue, but what creates that? What creates this idea of freedom? This thing that we enjoy here that we talked about. Our young men and women are not getting conscripted right now. They're not being drafted right now. It's because people volunteer. People pay that price. There's a phrase that I try to ask every single one of my guests in this series, Service and Sacrifice, what it means. What does service and sacrifice mean to you?
Service and sacrifice means love. Love more than the love of yourself.
Mm. I absolutely love that. You know, I've heard so many different answers, but I have to be honest, this is definitely my favorite because I think loving other human beings is such a powerful tool. Um, it'll take you much further than anything else other than love. If you walk in love, it's part of the one of my grandma's teachings to me. She said, "Honey, you just walk in love and everything gonna work out." And I try to use that as a healthy reminder of how I need to be to other human beings. And I really admire that you brought that up. Walking in love, just being loving to other people is service and sacrifice. It's not always the huge negatives and focusing on that. Sometimes we do have to decompress as veterans, press the button on the pressure cooker and spray the whole wall with all the food juice and stuff.
Here's another irony or dichotomy, as I want to say. It's like, here's the thing: service and sacrifice mean love others more than you love yourself. But in order to do that, you have to learn to love yourself first.
There's so much behind that, and there's a lot of truth.
I'm telling you, man, you can be abundant. You cannot adapt a mind of abundant, because when you're abundant, you feel enough and you feel more than enough, and you give it away. Nobody is giving away anything. Nobody is giving away shit if you're deficited. Right?
That is true.
Right? But if you adapt and practice the mindset of abundance, that means you love yourself so much that you got so much extra you got to give to other people. You have so much that you got to give other people so that you love them more than you love yourself, because you got so much love for yourself already. You cannot love other people absence of loving yourself, because you're going to ruin yourself. Yes. You're going to drive yourself to destructive behaviors and self-destruction and self, promotion and whatever. Lie to yourself and lie to other people. Like, all that's going to happen. Like, love yourself, man. If you practice loving yourself enough to a point, I got so much love, man, I got to give it to someone else. And you don't need to have them to know that you give it to them. You just do it.
You just do it.
It's organic, Eddie.
Absolutely organic.
It's just organic.
Mm-hmm. I really love your ideology.
I'm coming back to the women of our lives, is because that's what they just do.
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. It definitely is. It's a way of nurturing. I think.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential, man. And without love, like how bad would the world be without love? I don't even want to think about it. And self-love, self-discipline, a lot of times, especially for males, self-discipline is self-love. I think it's so great to set those healthy boundaries. Love to go out on the rucks, to go out and plank and then clean up nature, to go out and instead of spending all day drinking coffee and getting the jitters, drink a gallon of water. Give your body the blood it's supposed to actually have every day. Like, gallon and a half of water is like the minimum for me every single day. Probably why I got to pee so much, but it is what it is, right? You have to ingest good, healthy information. And that's something I took away from your conversation as well, because you gave me a lot of positive information, and I'm going to definitely apply it and use it for all my interactions going here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you giving me the time. Get on my soapboxes a little bit. My wife, I think we'll come to a good time, because my wife's like, "Hey, Lynn, I'm hungry. Go cook for me." I'm like,
yeah, it is time. It is time. It's definitely dinner time for me as well. But I just wanted to say, thank you to your wife to giving us the time, and the kids for letting Dad chill for a second. I appreciate your insight. I love a lot of things you said. Practicing the pause, practicing active self-love, community service to your community, expanding your community to people who don't have as much. All of it is definitely something that in the future I'd like to take a leaf out of your book and apply myself more, and do something similar. I think that there's so much value found in what you provided. So I wanted to thank you for your time, your insight, and all your lessons, and sharing about your brother as well.
All right, my man. Well, you have a blessed evening. Say hi and hug your wife and all that good stuff. I appreciate her. I appreciate your family. I appreciate all that is around you and supporting you, so that you can be the great man that you are, Eddie. And go forth and use your platform to do goods in the world, brother.
I hope so. And I thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for tapping into another episode of Off the Deep Podcast. We just heard Lynn's story, and wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Let's continue this conversation on our Facebook page, and make sure you practice self-love every day. And you know what? I think we can all practice service and sacrifice. Just go out and love the world, y'all. Much love.
Hey, hold up.
Families are...
Hold up, man. I'm going to give you an acronym. I'm going to give you an acronym, because we're all military. We love acronyms.
Okay, yes, we are.
It's HSL, HSL. Hear yourself, H. See yourself, S. Love yourself, L. HSL yourself every day, everybody. so much that you have enough so that you can hissle the world.
I
So
love it.
hissle away.
Hissle is the phrase of the month. Okay, all February, hissle it is. Much love, brother. Thank you for your time.